This episode of the podcast is a little bit different. Every week, I write something called the Ideas Lab Bulletin, which goes out to thousands of subscribers. And this week's bulletin was titled 3 Simple Things to Turn Your Mood Around Right Now. This issue of the bulletin had a big response. Several people emailed me to say it had impacted them. So I thought it could be helpful to create a podcast episode from that bulletin. And here it is. 3 simple things to turn your mood around right now. Entrepreneurship can be challenging. I've always described it as an emotional roller coaster. The highs are really high, but oh wow, are those lows low. So if you're feeling down or just kind of demotivated, this week's Ideas Lab Bulletin is for you because these are 3 things I know from experience work quickly to make you feel better. Number 1, realize that this is normal. I've been in this business for almost 15 years now, and I've had the fortune to meet and even befriend some of my heroes from the self-development and entrepreneurial world. And here's my conclusion. We're a fucked up bunch. Seriously, even the multimillionaires. Now, I don't know if that's because all humans, once you really know them well, are kind of mad, or more likely, according to some research, anyone drawn magnetically to entrepreneurship, creativity, and or the self-development world has a more unreliable temperament to start with. Whichever it is, realize that whatever it may look like on the outside, everyone you look up to has a whole bunch of difficult stuff going on in their brain. And that even if your business grows to the point where you're making millions, problems, setbacks, and just unexpected down days don't go away. So if you're feeling unproductive, unmotivated, self-critical, or flat out depressed, take some solace at least from knowing that you're very far from being alone. Number 2, label your negative thoughts. I spent years of my life depressed and anxious due to a combination of medical stuff and early trauma. Many years ago, I set out to turn it around, and now I'm in a very different place. I'm no longer depressed, and I've managed to create a successful and enjoyable life. However, I'm still prone to pessimism, self-criticism, and other negative thinking. One of the things that I found really helpful is to simply notice negative thoughts and label them as such. I say in my head, that's a negative thought. The aim is not to change what I'm thinking on the spot, and it's certainly not to berate myself for having the negative thought. Instead, to think of it more like counting sheep and say, negative thought, every time you notice one. A negative thought being anything that makes you feel worse, even if it seems true. I find this has a particularly powerful effect when I first wake up. Catch any negative thoughts that happen then, and it might just set you on a better path for the day. Number 3, think a positive feeling thought. A decade ago, I did a program called the Lightning Process. And one of the interesting habits it includes is to deliberately think a positive feeling thought several times a day. What do I mean by that? Well, it's more than just telling yourself an affirmation or thinking a particular thought. Here's how it works. Firstly, decide how you would like to feel: relaxed, energetic, optimistic, etc. Then imagine a scene that represents the feeling. This could be an imagined future scene, or, sometimes easier, recalling a moment from your life when you felt that way. Hold that scene in your head with your eyes closed until you feel at least a taste of that feeling, because recalling such a scene vividly will give you a little bit of a taste of the feeling as if you were back there. Then congratulate yourself for doing the exercise and go back to your day. The aim is not for this to completely change your mood. It is more about the cumulative effect and the habit built over time to think more positively. Neuroplasticity means that over time, your brain will form the connections to be more positive by default. I found that there seems to be a threshold where I do this 4 times a day, and it only takes 2 minutes. My mood definitely becomes more positive. Try doing it 4 times a day yourself, and I'd love to know what happens for you. I hope this Ideas Lab Bulletin has been helpful for you. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, so feel free to comment underneath or send me an email. If you've enjoyed this podcast version of the Ideas Lab Bulletin, then you can sign up for the bulletin itself, which comes by email at theideaslab.org. Go to the site, zip to the bottom of the page, and enter your email address there. If you work in therapy or coaching yourself, or you'd like to set up a business around that, that is something I help people do. So join the bulletin and you'll be first to hear about everything I'm offering to help people in this space. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ideas Lab podcast. Please do subscribe, and if you've enjoyed this episode, it would be great if you could leave us a review. You can get links and details of everything mentioned in the podcast in the show notes, along with photos and video clips from many of our episodes. Just go to theideaslab.org/podcast.